Good evening, everybody. It's Fredrina. I'm back with part 2 of this week's videos. And this week we were talking about building correctly from the beginning and why that's so important for your sustenance in your business, why it's important to maintain a certain level of excellence, why it's important to maintain a certain level of loyalty to your beginning, to why you started, to the procedures you put in place. It's beyond just what you want to sell. It's beyond your product. It's beyond your service. It is really establishing a level of care for your clientele and making sure that while people have options, they're still choosing you based on the service that you provide for them. So we spoke about what it's like to hire employees and the fact that hiring employees is going to be your most expensive bit of overhead. It's going to sometimes even be 3x because you have benefits, you have wages, and then you also have to adjust for any shrink or any possible mistakes that those employees make at the beginning of their hiring at the beginning of their tenure with your company. So you want to make sure that you have as many things as possible laid out plainly. You have your SOPs, standard operational procedures, and then you measure those SOPs by your KPIs, your key performance indicators. And then from there, you add on people and you have those people adjust to what you've set in place. So being clear on your company and who you are from the beginning. One of the main things I do want to say is when you go to hire employees, kind of pay attention to their soft skills, their mannerisms. This is not to discriminate. So let me make sure I make this very clear. This is not to discriminate against anyone. Everyone can perform a function and they do have to be pushed regardless of whatever raw talent they have. So let me say that. But what I want to drive home with this point is that when you watch someone, you can see how they would fit within your company. They may be reserved and they're applying for sales, right? You can still push this person in sales, but there may be a data role that would fit them better. Or there may be a kind of like scorekeeping role where they keep track of how many sales are being done. And then when those sales are done, what customers prefer what? Are they repeat? Are they doing add-ons? You know, there are so many ways that you can keep someone in the realm of what they applied for, but also make sure that they're best suited for that position in order to push you forward. And this can be done better when you're an entrepreneur because you have the hands-on of what the day-to-day takes, as well as being able to see that person for yourself as opposed to them just being hired from, you know, levels farther down from you and you have no say or no interaction with the person that's about to be hired. So when you are an entrepreneur, there are a lot of advantages. And because you have those advantages, it is best for you to go ahead and set the tone for your company at that point so that once you expand, you're not just incurring more costs by adding on more employees. You're actually becoming more profitable, and those employees are able to provide the 3x of their place in your company as opposed to just costing you 3 times what it takes to have them there. So when I say that, in our last video, I broke down that for American employees, for the most part, in some other countries as well, we have healthcare, we have our base pay, and then on top of that, you adjust for the shrink or mistakes of any of those employees. So your employee, whenever you hire someone, they should be making you 3 times their salary. So if we have someone we hire and their base salary is $15 an hour, they need to be making you a minimum of $45 for that hour that they're there. So whether it's selling products, whether it is fulfilling orders of some sort, or cooking items and packaging them for delivery, whatever it is, they need to be making you 3 times whatever it is that you pay them. So if we pay them $12 an hour, they need to be making you $36 for that hour that they're there. This covers their wages, but also adjusts for your profitability that you're intending to make. You're intending to grow when you add on employees. You don't want someone who's coming in as you are a solopreneur, barely breaking even as a solopreneur. Then you add on someone and become a full-fledged entrepreneur / CEO. And at this moment, you're struggling because you can't keep up with the pace of paying them and paying whatever other overhead you already incurred just by running the business on your own. So you have to be careful with expansion and make sure that you have everything laid out and everything is clear, because if it's not clear, when you add on employees, that lack of clarity adds to the chaos, and then adding to that chaos is only taking more away from your bottom line, ultimately, because nobody's clear on what they need to do. And if they're not clear on what they need to do, they're making mistakes, they're upsetting customers, and then in upsetting customers, you're further taking away from your bottom line, right? So we can see why clarity is so important, why it's important to know who you are as an entrepreneur, and then also gauge who you're planning to hire and how they would fit with the company culture. Your company culture is going to survive beyond profitability. And I say that because if you have a great core team, it does not matter if your business starts out selling novelties to moving to brick and mortar. If you have a great core team who understands you, who understands what the business offers, and understands the goal of the business, when you have these things in place, you can move that same core group to any business and succeed. That's what you need. Your company culture is what sets you apart. In that company culture is how you treat each other, and then ultimately how you treat your customers. Everyone wants to have great customer service. Everyone wants to be the one to respond to their customers and grovel over their customers and, fall on the floor and let them walk on them or whatever. But there's a way to do it specific to your company that will set you apart regardless of what industry you're in, right? So when you seek to expand and you take those people with you, that level of excellence, those SOPs that you set in place, that infrastructure that you set in place, your foundation you set in place should be able to transfer regardless of what industry you start in or regardless of what you choose to add on to your business and provide to your customers in the long run. So that's why our clarity is important. That is why doing it right at the beginning, or as right as possible at the beginning, is so crucial, because when you go to expand, you guys, you won't have time for the menial and minutia things that you once had time for before. You won't have time to worry about going to the post office at 7. Your mind won't even be on these things anymore. So this is why you need processes and procedures. I would even say before you seek to advertise for your company, you need to make sure your processes and procedures are buttoned up so tight that someone can come in who's brand new, read it, at least have a general idea of what they need to do, and their questions can then jolt you into explaining why it's needed and jolt you into explaining where they fit in that important role, because they understand it from a written perspective, or they understand it based on what you tell them. A lot of times people know what needs to be done, but they can't adequately express that. They can't verbalize it. They can't explain it. And so having communication on paper helps you, even if it's just for the bullet point portion of it. If you have a bullet point list of what it is you do, okay, we pick the orders up at 6, we package them, we rewrap them, we then place them in boxes, and if you have these things laid out, it keeps you from forgetting based on your knowledge, right? So if I'm the entrepreneur, I know exactly what it takes to fill an order. So it's more so second nature. It is muscle memory, as opposed to me having to tell someone who is not familiar with my processes, who is brand new, but has a knack for what it is my company offers. So let's say I have a makeup product company and I hire someone who likes makeup, right? So they have a knack for what it is that I do, but they may not be accustomed to my specific process. This is why having written procedures, having a clear company culture, and having a firm foundation is so crucial, because the more people you add, you lose proximity to them. It's like degrees of relationships, and like when we network, right? Everybody has degrees of relations. So the more people you add, the farther away you get from your base, and in getting farther away from your base, you then have this issue where you're not as close to formulate your company culture. So when you're not as close to formulate your company culture, you have to make sure that it's been ingrained in the business and the business workings from the very beginning. So that if you now have a supervisor in place, that supervisor is your proxy. And in being your proxy, they're establishing what's needed to make sure the company runs the same and service your customers the same way, based on what you've instilled from the beginning, right? All right, my solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, budding CEOs, and current CEOs, you guys, make sure you get it right from the beginning. And if you're in a position of being a CEO, go back and tweak it some. Make sure everything is still running the same as you envisioned it when you started your company. Again, my book, The Conscious Leader, is available. You can find it on all of my pages. The link is available. And make sure you guys come back for any announcements I may have for Trinity Professional Group, including the next time I may go live. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye. Thank you so much.